Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. So it's a very interesting sort of day here in Australia, and I suppose it is around the world wherever you are, because there's been so much happening in the last 7 days. You know, no matter which way you look at it, every time you turn the news on, there's something there that we all need to sort of listen to, address, take on board, whether it's political, whether it's just other events around the world. I think there's just so much happening at the moment that we almost sort of feel like we can get into overload. So that takes me into my Simply Tarot card of the week, which interestingly enough is the Ace of Swords. Now, the Ace of Swords is the card of frustration. Now, I can feel that a lot of people are saying, yes, well, that's very apt, Amanda. That's what I'm feeling at the moment is frustration. It can also be the card of a double-edged sword. Now, what I mean by that is that there's possibly two directions that you can sort of go. If you see closely on the sword, you'll see on one side there's sort of almost like a famine or very little, and on the other side it's like the feast. So it's like it could either be a famine or a feast. So that's why we come up with the terminology, the double-edged sword. Things could go either way. The other meaning for this card is a hollow victory. Now, quite often when we've been working really hard on something and we get to the end and we've achieved what we set out to do, we turn around and say, is that it? Is that all? I thought it would have given me a lot more than that. I thought I would have been jumping for joy, jumping over the moon, saying, wow, this is amazing. I've made it. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. Instead of I go, oh, is that all? I didn't feel that I would just sort of feel so empty or so hollow. So it's an interesting sort of card to sort of work with. It's not one to be sort of taken as a negative. I mean, the cards in the tarot deck are the ones that I suppose challenges and our obstacles and the things that we need to look at. So I just want you to sort of be aware of that in the next 7 days. There's two or three before you answer a question. If somebody's really annoying you, try and keep your smiley face on even though you feel like punching them in the face. It's sometimes an easier way to do things. So it's been a really interesting week astrologically this week. It's the first time in a very long time where we've had all the 8 planets and the 2 luminaries going direct or just doing what they should be doing. In full power, it's full steam ahead, full throttle. They're all sort of jockeying for position to sort of try and get where they feel that they need to be going. So if you've been feeling a little bit frazzled around the edges and sort of thinking like everything feels like it's notched up a gear or 2 or 10, that's the reasons why, because we haven't got any planets going retrograde or slowing down or sort of analysing things at the moment. It's everything's full throttle ahead. Plus, we've also shifted a gear out of Capricorn into the Aquarian energy, which now takes us more into our headspace time, where the earth sign of the Capricorn energy was a time where we could just go, oh, good, let's just relax a little bit after the silly season and, you know, the holiday period and all the rellos have gone home and we can finally sort of do the clean up and sort of amble our way into the new year. Well, now it's sort of like, let's get our backside into gear. Let's start thinking about the things that we want to do. So there's lots of ideas rolling around in our head at the moment. But this can also mean that sometimes we don't want to be interrupted either. So some people look at us as being a bit cranky or snappy or short-tempered or whatever. That's not really the case. It's just that we're deep in thought. We're focusing on the things that are rolling through our mind very, very quickly, trying to make sure, well, do we keep this bit? Do we throw that bit out? Do we put that away for later on? So there's lots of activity going on mentally wise at the moment. So that brings me to the candle of the week this week. And this week I thought we'd try and slow everything down a notch or two, because it is sort of such a busy time and a time where I think we could all do with just sort of exhaling, sort of allowing ourselves time to gather our thoughts, to collect our thoughts. So this week I've actually chosen the candle called meditation. I felt that this was an apt candle to be working with this week, because I think we could all do with sort of just taking a little bit of time for ourselves, sort of gathering our thoughts, focusing on what it is that we want to work with this week. And sort of, you know, it works slightly differently to every other candle, where I ask you to put down 3 things that you want to release and 3 things that you want to attract. With a meditation candle, you don't have to write a list if you don't want to. You can if you want to, if you want to meditate on a few things and get some answers to some of the things that you're trying to bring into your life. But it can be just one of those candles that you light just for the sake of it. it's like I just want to put a very peaceful, serene energy into my very, very busy, hectic world at the moment. So with the extra large candles, as you can see, this one's got a little bit of purple sparkly on it this week, just to make it a little bit different and a little bit special. But we have the dual wick system in these candles, the extra large candles. So I light 1 wick one day and 1 wick the next day, so that just gives me a longer burn time. So the candle itself doesn't get hot, but that the soy wax itself doesn't get hot, but the glass container can. So can I suggest you pop it onto a coaster, never directly onto the furniture? That way we won't scorch the furniture. We'll actually sort of protect the furniture. And burning a candle between 15 minutes to 2 hours a day is my recommendation there for that. So, you know, it's a lovely candle. It's got a gentle fragrance, and it's something that you sort of is very subtle going in the background, but please be mindful. Anytime we work with flame, it is a fire. We need to be mindful of that, and definitely under no curtains, open windows, under fans, air conditioning, near children and pets. We need to sort of literally babysit the candle, be with it. No matter how safely you think you can set it up, it can never be safe enough except you sitting there with it. So that's my recommendation there for that. For those of you that want a smaller candle that you want to take into the office or take with you when you're traveling, or just have it going, you know, near you when you're sort of reading a book or chilling out, these are our travel kit candles. These ones burn for about 15 hours each. Same rules apply. Pop them on a coaster. These will burn for approximately 15 hours each. And you can make up any of the 28 candles in our range. You can pop your choices in the coupon box at the checkout of what you want. You know, you don't have to have 3 meditation candles. You can have 3 different candles. We do offer free postage here in Australia, but for our overseas family, we just have a flat fee. So can I suggest, if you want to make a few purchases, save your pennies up and buy them all together. That way, then it doesn't matter how much you put in your shopping cart, it's one sort of flat fee. Now, for those of you that don't want to work with a flame, can I suggest to you a melt warmer? Here in Australia, approximately around about $15. These are electric. What you do, they have a little dish on the top. You take 2 teaspoons out the first day out of your candle, of your soy wax, put it in the top of the melt warmer. You can plug these in and you can safely leave these going all day. I probably use melt warmers more than I do candles these days, for the simple reason I can have it going all day. I have one going in my office with protection wax in it all the time, and then out in the main part of my house I have the weekly candle that I'm working with that going with the fragrance. So this week, you know, we're not writing any lists unless you particularly want to. But again, I always pop it on a coaster, never directly on the furniture, and make sure you turn it off before you leave the house or the office and before you go to bed of a night. But it does put a lovely fragrance to the house. When you're finished with the wax in there, you can add an extra half a teaspoon a day to just keep freshening it up. I pop it in the freezer for a couple of minutes, and then you can easily run a plastic knife underneath the soy wax and remove it, wash it in hot soapy water, allow it to cool down, and then you can start again. So that now brings me to probably another part of the show that some of you I know really sort of look forward to each week, and that's where we focus on a famous person astrologically and look at the reasons why that they've become so famous, and it just gives you a little bit of a hint at sort of, oh yes, that's why they behave that way. Well, this week I'm really excited to say that, and we're focusing on actors at the moment, we have our famous male Leo actor. Now, there wouldn't be a lady on the planet that wouldn't have at some stage or another daydreamed about being this person's partner in some form or another, and I'm talking about the one and only Patrick Swayze. Now, for many of you, you'll never forget those beautiful romantic love scenes he did with Demi Moore in Ghost, where they were sitting there and working with the potter's wheel, and it was just one of the most romantic, iconic love scenes I think that's ever been in a movie, that will probably go down in history for hundreds and hundreds of years. And many people tried to imitate that but couldn't get that same magic right in Ghost. And Ghost is actually one of my favourite movies of all times. But I think also he's very much remembered for his actual dancing ability. And interestingly enough, Patrick Swayze learnt to dance at a very young age. His mum was a prolific dancer and a dance teacher. So we have a very talented man here who's not only been an actor, he's been a director, he's been a singer, he's been a dancer. You know, is there no end to this man's talent? And it was interesting because he lived his life by very strict sort of guidelines. He was very much the perfectionist. He didn't like to do something that he didn't believe that he could give 110% to. He wanted everybody to sort of notice him for his abilities. And whether he was dancing or whether he was singing or whether he was acting, each role had to be as perfect as possible. So this is possibly why, he got sick at quite a young age, putting that much pressure on himself. Who knows? I mean, we're all made up different ways. We're all wired different ways, and we all have different DNA. But this man, I think, will go down in history, as I said, for Ghost, as one of the most romantic love stories ever written. But then on a completely different genre was Dirty Dancing. Now, look, nobody, I think, on the planet hasn't not seen that movie where, it's a beautiful romantic family type movie where, they're talking about a bygone era back in the 50s where things were a little bit more simple and people used to go away to holiday places for the summer and, go away and stay in guest houses, and there was organised activities. Well, this is where Patrick Swayze meets the young girl called Baby. And, they form a relationship and, she goes into a dancing competition with him and she wants to learn to dance. And at the end of the movie, they burst into song and do this amazing dance. And that's where the famous line, "Nobody puts baby in the corner," comes from. So I hope you enjoyed our little bit of a trip down memory lane with the one and only Patrick Swayze. So we're going to be sort of taking our first call now. And we've got Christine in Brecon, England. Are you there, Christine?
I am.
Can I help you tonight, sweetie? Do you have a question for me?
I don't think I have to ask a question. What am I going to ask? I'm going to find a partner.
Right, okay. All right, so you're going to find love in 2019. Is that your question, Christine?
Yeah.
Okay. First thing that they're showing me, Christine, is that 2018 was a series of endings, changes and transformations around you, particularly from August onwards. I felt there was a lot of doors that sort of seemed to come slam shut very quickly. Is that how you sort of saw the later part of 2018? There was a series of doors that went slam shut, like I finished a number of things?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good thing because what that was doing was getting you ready for 2019 when we're going to have a number of doors flying open, including the door to romance. It's interesting because the first thing that they're showing me, Christine, is there's somebody from your past coming back, crossing your path. Now, this is a man with dark hair. It is somebody that I feel you did have a relationship with, not just an infatuation or would have been nice. This was somebody that I think really was a suitor in a previous part of your life. Now, I'm not suggesting to you to go back down that road. What I want you to do is look at that as a marker in time. So if somebody randomly contacts you on social media out of the past and says, "How you doing? What are you up to? How's your life been since we parted company?" It's up to you whether you want to reply to them. But I just want to use that as the marker in time that sort of like once that sort of happened, then in behind that will come the right sort of relationship. It's not the fact that there's no opportunity there to go dating. There is. But the thing is, at the moment, Christine, you're looking at things and you're thinking, well, look, you might be a very nice man, but I don't have any interest in you. And to me, it would be a waste of my time and your time for us to go on a date because I already know what the result's going to be. So don't think that you're being too fussy or too picky. I feel what you're doing is honouring yourself now. You're saying to yourself, look, I'm not going to put my energy out there to just go out with anyone. Unless I feel a real connection there, then I'll say the answer is no. So this is a good thing because you've defined now what it is that you want in a relationship. You know clearly what you don't want. So this next man that's coming in after the person from the past, I think has more mid-brown hair, blue to green, hazily coloured eyes. They're not blue, they're not green, and they're not hazel eyes. They're sort of a mixture coloured eyes. I do feel that he lives north of where you are, and I do feel that he's a man that hasn't had a lot of relationships. He's an interesting man to talk to. I think you'll meet him through rather unusual circumstances, like taking a weekend away with a girlfriend or something, and the two of you going out for a bite to eat somewhere where you've never been before, and you just happen to to talk to the people at the next table. It'll be something like that. But I like him. I think he's a very interesting man. I think there will be a slow growing relationship there because neither one of you is in a hurry, but I do feel it's got potential for being a very serious long-term relationship. Also, the other thing I want to quickly talk to you about, Christine, is were you planning on changing your job this year? Because I'm seeing question marks around March around the employment situation as whether I'm questioning whether or not I'm in the right job. Do I need to be making a change? What are the things that I need to be looking at for the future? Is that how you've been feeling too, that you might be sort of getting close to sort of wanting to make a change?
Well, I don't work at the moment. I've sort of retired.
Right.
So I'm just,
okay, but they'd still show that to me.
Really.
Okay, but if you were to take up something that would be a hobby that would earn you some income, they would still show that to me as a job change.
Right.
So is there something that's been rolling? You want to work?
Yeah, I want to work, but I can't at the moment.
Right. What, because of a health issue?
Pardon?
Is it because of a health issue?
Yes.
Okay. They're still showing me the question marks around March. So whether or not in March that you find that you can start to look at putting a plan together of when you might be able to go back to work or be able to do something small, there's a change or a shift in March around employment and question marks around it.
Right, okay.
But I'm looking at that in a positive way. I'm not looking at that in a negative way, Christine. It's sort of like I'm feeling quite excited about it. So even if it was something where you could look at going back to sort of something sort of only, even 4 hours a week, that would be a major leap forward from where you've come.
Yeah.
And that would sort of be a positive change in your life also. So I just sort of feel that everything that you've gone through in this last 12 months was very necessary. I don't want you to look at it as any of it was a mistake. It was all necessary. Every change that you made, you were right on cue for where you should have been and what you should have done. So there's nothing you've left undone, and that's a positive position to be in moving forward into this new part of your life. So if I can come back to your health, to me, it's a complicated situation. It's not just one illness or one problem. I'm sort of seeing multiple layers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is making it so difficult, because unless we can, we can sort of get one part of it, not so much cured, but under control, manageable, and then something else sort of takes us off in this direction over here. And it's like, hang on a minute, now this has become the major thing, and it's like it's overrunning the part over here that we got sort of under control, and then we get that bit under control and then something leaps over here. So it's sort of like I'm constantly leaping from one thing to another, trying to get them all to sort of calm down and be manageable all at once.
Yeah.
That's the tricky bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's impossible. What I am saying is that I feel that there is some breakthroughs in treatments or the way that they approach this year, and you will sort of feel as if, I'm not saying cured, but I'm saying you will feel as if throughout the progress of this year that we've got this more in a manageable spot, that I can actually have a life back again.
Yeah.
And that's good, because you've really explored everything to try and get to that point, have you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not one size fits all from what I'm seeing here. You can't just say, orthodox medicine is the way to go, and you can't say complementary medicine is the way to go. I think it's a combination of many different things will bring it to a point that you can control it, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wish you well. I think you're doing very, very well with it, Christine. So just keep on the same path, sweetie, and keep positive. We're going to take our next call, and that's Nessa in Orlando, Florida. Are you there, Nessa? So it looks like we've lost Nessa for the moment. We'll just keep talking. So we go back to the meditation candle. It is a candle that can be used for you to do an actual meditation with. For those of you that are not big fans of meditation like me, I actually find it very, very difficult to still my mind to meditate. But I'll share with you something that was shared with me by another famous psychic around the world. And he taught me in a course that I did that if you do stare into a candle, if you light a candle and you stare into the candle while it's burning, the flame of the candle is burning, you focus your mind on just the flame. So what you're doing for that split second or those few minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you're allowing your mind to be still. And that's the easiest way of meditating. So it's really interesting because, as I said, I'm not a great meditator. And once I started to apply this in practice, that I'd get my meditation candle out of a morning and I would light it for a few minutes and I would actually just stare into the flame of the candle, and that just stills your mind. And that's basically all meditation is stilling your mind. So you don't necessarily have to sit under a pyramid, listen to a tape or a CD. You can do something as simple as working with staring into the flame of a candle. And I will share with you the famous psychic that taught me that method. It's the one and only John Edward. So we've now got Nessa in Orlando, Florida. Are you there, Nessa?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, sweetie?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a question I can work with for you, sweetie?
Just what my future holds, or if any loved ones come through.
Okay. I don't try and bring through loved ones in such a short space of time here on the show, but what I can do is, yes, I can look at your future. Now, so the first thing that they're showing me is that you were really putting a great emphasis on the last 3 months of last year to try and sort of sort things out, finish things off and sort of, get things to a completion phase. Now, there's still a couple of things that I'm going to say to you that I don't think have been quite completed yet. It's like we've got to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned on major issues in our lives that we need to complete. It's like we need to complete these last two things before I think we can move forward and go into the wishing well, so to speak, of what we hope to achieve for 2019. They are showing me that there's still question marks around what this year is supposed to represent for you. And I don't think that we're that far into the new year yet that we can't sort of sit there and say, look, for the moment, I haven't got my plan formulated for 2019. I think that's quite acceptable at this point. I feel what you need to do is just deal with what's the most immediate thing. If you can deal with what's on your plate now, what you've got to deal with today, this week, this month, and then we can sort of look a little bit longer term, then I feel that we won't miss any of those vital steps that are very, very necessary. They're showing me that there's some definite endings coming up in March, so I don't know what you've got planned for March, but one of those to me seems to be a question mark around job/work. So I want to put those sort of two together as if, if you're not particularly happy with the job, would you be open to a move connected to a new job? That's sort of the question marks I'm picking up around that. It doesn't mean we have to do it. All I'm saying is the question marks are there. So had you thought that may possibly be a job change with a potential move this year? Is that something that's been rolling around in your mind?
Maybe going back to nursing school for the spring term.
Right, okay. All right, so if you went back to nursing school, would that necessarily mean a change of residence, or would that be sort of further down the track when you finish the training?
No, I would have a while to go.
Yeah, but I mean, I keep seeing the question marks around where you're living, and I don't know how that sort of ties in to the work situation. I'm just uncertain of that, but they come out together like they're holding hands. Or is it just coincidental if you were to go back to study that you might change where you're living just because you're sick of where you're living? Is that all it is?
Okay.
Yeah, to me, they're coming out simultaneously. So I wasn't sure whether they were connected because the change with the work or study would then bring about a change of residence, or whether they just coincidentally happened at the same time. They're also showing me 2019 is a year where you need to be a little bit more aware of your finances this year and your spending habits. Now, that could very well be because you're going back to study and you won't have as much time to be earning an income, so we need to be more mindful of where and what we're spending. But I'm just sort of seeing the first half of 2019 seems to be a little bit more strained when it comes to finances. Then the second half of the year seems to be we can exhale and we can breathe a little bit easier with where our financial situation is going. But I do feel that this year is a year where you can make your dreams a reality. But the only message I've got from the other side is that they keep telling me that you've got to stop procrastinating. So I've got 3 people on the other side, 2 male and a female, all coming through together, standing together, sort of saying, pointing their finger, saying it's time to stop procrastinating, it's time to get moving. So you're the only one that can answer what they're talking about with that. But that was the only message that came through from the other side. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for joining the show. We've got very little time left now. I hope you can join us again next week. On the show, we will have our Simply Tarot card of the week, our candle of the week. We'll have our little glimpse around the universe. And next week, we'll have our famous female actor or actress from the sign of Leo. So whatever you're doing in this amazing planet of ours, take a candle, meditate on the flame, get some closure or some peace in your life. Just sort of let your mind go blank. Don't think about what you've got to do in the next 5 minutes or the next half an hour. Just allow yourself to lose yourself in the mystery of what a candle can bring. And that's a form of meditation that I think each and every one of us can do each and every day. It's simple, it's easy, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's actually very relaxing. And you'll find that you look forward to doing that to start your day, or at the end of your day. It's your little couple of minutes where you sort of just have that very personal time to be at one with yourself. So until next week, bye for now.